bioeconomy in Indonesia and the possibilities for Scandinavian companies with the interest in investing, and also the incentives available for companies. And we will present the report, a roadmap to a circular bioeconomy in Indonesia. And for guests that needs translation into Bahasa, you can access this in Zoom. And if you have problems accessing the interpretation, you can ask in the chat. Firstly, I would like to welcome Runar Bolsrud, CEO of Avfall Norge.
Thank you, Oda. Hello and welcome to Avfall Norge, the Norwegian Waste Management and Recycling Association. My name is Runar Bolsrud and I am the CEO of Avfall Norge. Avfall Norge organizes the Norwegian waste and recycling industry and its stakeholders. We represent more than 200 different public and private companies working with waste management, recycling and recycled materials. Norwegian waste management sector is part of the global waste management sector. Therefore, Avfall Norge's international work is important as it connects us to the international processes and new markets. The Clean Ocean Through Clean Communities, or CLOC, program is currently working to improve waste management in Indonesia and India in close collaboration with local partners. In the Banyuwangi Regency in East Java, Indonesia, CLOC has for the last year been heavily engaged with local authorities to create a waste management plan. The plan is circular and made by the local stakeholders themselves with strong political commitment. It will be launched officially in the upcoming month. As our experience from Norway shows, a good waste management plans targeted for local context is key to achieve a clean environment. Efficient management of organic waste is important to achieve sustainable waste management, both in Norway and Indonesia. That's why we contracted Lindum and Kjetil Stoknes to write this report about biogas opportunities in Banyuwangi. I'm glad we can present the bioeconomy opportunities in Banyuwangi and explore business opportunities to the Scandinavian waste management companies interested in the Indonesian market today. Thank you for joining us physically or digitally.
Thank you, Runar. And now Kjetil Stoknes, PhD researcher in Lindum, will present the report, Roadmap for a Circular Bioeconomy in Banyuwangi.
Thanks. Nice to be here. Okay, so yeah, I'm as they said, I'm working in Lindum full time, but been lucky to be able to do this work in Indonesia, and that's in cooperation with Avfall Norge and the Clean Oceans Through Clean Community project. So the title is Roadmap for a Circular Bioeconomy in Banyuwangi. So where is Banyuwangi? It's at the east end of Java, and as you can see, it's a green and lush area with a lot of agriculture and a lot of forest. And in this regency, there's 1.7 million people. That's 300 per square kilometer. The average of Indonesia is 151, so it's quite densely populated. And the climate is temperate tropical, wet, dry climate with a dry season from May until October. So these are just some arbitrary pictures from Google Earth if you drop down into a road, a street in Banyuwangi. So these are quite small roads, but as you can see, the road standard is quite simple. and the roads are narrow, and people live very close to the roads. This is a highway in the center of Banyuwangi. This is where all the transport has to go. So you can imagine the limitations for heavy transport on trucks around in this country, or in this region, or in Java in general, I would say, I assume. So, okay, and this is the basic challenge that we have, that there's a lot of waste that's not handled in the best way. And as you can see here in some chili fields, there's a lot of plastic and waste. And here is also a chili field to be planted. And you can see small plastic bags and containers wrapping everywhere. This is maize straw, a pile of maize straw in one of these fields, and maize and rice are the two crops that are most common. And here is a table of the area, planted area of rice, corn, soybean, and dragon fruit, I would say, are the most important crops cultivated in Banyuwangi. And the total estimated amount of residues is, as you can see, quite large for both rice and dragon fruit and corn or maize. And in particular, the dragon fruit is very interesting because that's a plant with very succulent leaves, thick, waxy, juicy leaves that are pruned or cut through the growing continuously. And here you can see in the picture how it's grown. And these leaves are cut off regularly, and they're not used for anything in particular today. And it's a great potential to collect these leaves and make a biogas substrate from it. This is the biogas industry in Indonesia today. In many ways, micro digesters are extremely important because there are thousands. And this is a kind of called a fixed dome digester of a few cubic meters. And it's mainly used by smallholder livestock farms to treat manure and some additional human fecal waste, sewage, you can say, and food waste. And there are also thousands of even smaller micro digesters. I'll come back to the amounts of the substrates that we have identified later, but the very high column in the middle there is manure, assumed amount of manure. But I'll also come back to that. It's not easy to collect this manure because the farms are small and spread. This is the other part of the biogas, the existing biogas industry in Indonesia. It's based on palm oil mill effluent, so-called POME or POME. And it's if you see this map on the side here, all the green dots are biogas plants for palm oil mill effluent. And you can see that there are many around in the more remote areas, but not many in Java at all. And especially not in the East End. So this is very suitable substrate for biogas production, because when you press the palm fruit to get the oil, you get a lot of the water soluble waste liquid, which can be pumped directly into a biogas plant to get biogas. So it's actually perfect. It's around 6% dry matter, and so it's that's the reason why this has taken on in Indonesia. And these plants, they need energy, they need power, so they can make their own power using combined heat and power on the biogas. And this map down there on the right is from a very fresh report made by the World Biogas Association that I recommend. And you find the reference in the report. And it has a lot of links to various projects and so on. So that's a very, in addition to the report we have made, you really need to get hold of this World Biogas Association report in addition to it. This is a map that UNTAG has made, the university, our collaborator in Banyuwangi, showing the shrimp ponds in blue, fish processing factories in red, and some sources of commercial food waste in green. And this can also be this map exists in a high resolution version that you can get if you're interested. It shows all the shrimp aquaculture ponds along the shore or the coast, and also how the fish processing plants are often located naturally also along the coast. So here is a very exciting synergy for powering fish processing plants. I'll come back to that just now. These are pictures that we took on our field trip, and it's from one processing plant where they have a very well-developed wastewater treatment plant for the waste. They make cans, they make fish oil, fish meal, and different products. And because the products are so valuable, they recycle most of the biomass within the process. So it's returned back to the products themselves. So we really got the impression that most of the biomass from fish processing is well taken care of. Of course, there are mineral nutrients that pass through the wastewater treatment plants, and that's also something with a great potential to collect. That in that case, you need to install more technology. This is now Siri is talking back to me from my phone. Sorry. This is a shrimp pond north of Banyuwangi, and most ponds are square, large. The challenge is to collect the sludge, because there is a substantial amount of sludge being formed in these ponds, but in these square ponds, it's not easy to collect the sludge. However, many of the farmers, if you see the picture down on the right, that's this farmer who's experimenting with round, circular, super intensive shrimp aquaculture ponds or pools, you can say. And that's a way that will make it much easier to collect the sludge. If you see this picture at the top right, that's from a location north of Banyuwangi, where they are developing circular ponds as a part of development towards even more intensive recirculate. You can also have recirculating aquaculture systems. And in this way, the sludge is easily collected at the center of these ponds. But in order to really valorize all the sludge, you need to change actually the system of aquaculture. This is a shit flow diagram. So then I'm talking about shit. And this one you can see on the slide is one that has been made for like a kind of imaginative Indonesian city called Atlantis. And it shows the large part, how much of the sludge is actually not treated in a optimal way. So approximately, probably 1/3 of the sludge, sewage sludge in Banyuwangi is treated in an optimal way, and 2/3 is not. And that's just how it is. And yeah, what we have done in our study for Banyuwangi, we have used the global average of 47 kilos per year of solid waste produced per person. This is something completely different. This is black soldier fly production, and this is a very interesting way of bioconversion of waste, because it turns food waste directly into protein that can be used as feed for shrimp, catfish, chicken, and so on. So, and the conversion rate, or the food conversion rate, feed conversion rate, is very good. So you get a lot of protein per amount of waste. This is actually better than making biogas, because it's higher up in the bioeconomy pyramid. It's more directly conversion of food to new food. And there is one company that we visited. They can treat 1 ton per day of food waste, and they claim that's profitable because they get well paid for this product. And there's also another company with Norwegian owners, I think, who's already started up making black soldier fly larvae for integrated food production, kind of aquaponics, where you feed the fish, and the waste from the fish fertilizes plants grown in a vertical growing system. And actually, this idea of more urban or vertical food production is very interesting, because, in particular, because it will stimulate the idea of source separation, valorization of food waste among people. Because here people can see directly. This is from a YouTube video by CNA, and you can find the link in the report, and it shows some examples from Jakarta, where they are using waste to produce new crops in a kind of vertical urban farming way. And they are also producing black soldier fly larvae as feed for chicken. And in many ways, you can say that urban farming is a kind of innovation lab for conventional agriculture, because yeah, the idea of circularity, sustainability is very well, it's really in focus for the urban agriculture movement. So this is here's a picture of the small digesters that where you can find more information about this in the report, and links to the Biru web page as well. This is the kind of circular idea that we have, or how you can imagine to connect the community with the fish and aquaculture sector and agriculture, to see the synergies of material and energy that you can get by doing this. And so we have kind of made a scenario where we take some of the waste to make black soldier fly larvae, and some of the food waste is turned into biogas, and the reject, or the plastic waste and so on, can go to RDF, or refuse derived fuel. And the power that we can make can also be used to power fish processing factories. And there is a clear synergy that agriculture can contribute with a lot of carbon, or a lot of biomass with high in energy, and then the fish sector contributes biomass high in nitrogen, and by combining this, you can recycle the nitrogen back to agriculture and so on. And also how you can use the both the food waste and the sewage into this circular system. Okay, so we have made a kind of roadmap consisting of 4 steps. I'm not sure if I'm going into all the detail, but how is the time? 7 minutes. Okay, I can take some of it. So we are following the plan made by the Indonesian Solid Waste Association in cooperation with the CLOC, the Integrated Solid Waste Management Plan, where they have made steps, 5 steps until 2046. We have only made looked at the 4 first steps until 2041, and with certain targets and what is the important policy commitment and support schemes and so on necessary to achieve this. So in the first step, there is, among other things, there is the decision of reducing waste with the 70% handling of waste by 2025. I think probably Indonesia is short in time to achieve this, but it's a very important reason to handle quickly. Then the main thing we have come up with is to really try to stimulate the development of small-scale biogas in the first steps, because the development in Indonesia has shown that it's really feasible. People who have invested in micro-scale biogas plants are satisfied. It works, and it's easy to roll it out quickly as a first step towards valorizing the food waste locally. And then after the first step, we can look at making medium-scale biogas plants and to make a network of black soldier fly facilities and so on, and phasing in biofertilizer as a substitute for mineral fertilizers in agriculture, and also using dragon fruit leaves as a very important substrate, and then so on until we have by 2041 enough capacity to treat both the food waste, sewage, and crop residues, etc. And in the later stages, it's important that the carbon benefits or the greenhouse gas reductions that you get from treating this waste becomes a part of the carbon credit system. And I think we'll come back to some policies and support mechanisms and so on afterwards. And we've also made an overview of all these different mechanisms in the report as an appendix in the report, so you can get all the details there. This is the total biomass to energy potential of Banyuwangi. This column in the middle of manure, it shows the predicted amount of manure available in Banyuwangi if Banyuwangi has the average cattle density of East Java. If that is the case, you have 1.5 million tons of cattle manure. That's a bit less than 1 ton per person living there. In Norway, we have 3 tons per person of cattle manure. But so this is a probable figure. It makes up a very large volume of cattle. But as I said, it's spread in small farms of a few animals. And the roads are not good enough to collect this into central biogas plants. Anyway, if I change the scale here a little bit, and then we look at the more closely at, for example, crop residues, you can see a very high biogas potential from crop residues. That's clearly the biggest untapped energy source in this area, together with food waste. And in annual amounts, using all this biomass, we can produce 730 gigawatt hours of available renewable energy. That is equal to approximately 84 megawatt effect or 25 megawatt electric. That's from that you get 266,000 tons of CO2 abatement. You get 13,000 tons of renewable fertilizer, equivalent to 12% of the total mineral fertilizer used today. We get 7,000 tons of compost, 3,100 tons of protein feed. Today, 15,000 tons is used in shrimp aquaculture. So in our scenario, we have taken only a part of the food waste used for BSF and most of it for anaerobic digestion for biogas. But that's because 3,000 tons can, in theory, fit well into the protein feed used today. 400 jobs are created. That's a conservative estimate. And we have also, there is as I said, a huge additional potential in manure. And you can also imagine to have sequential crops. That's a kind of intercropping system where you plant more crops between the crops. And that's has proved in trials around the world to be sustainable and to create more biomass that you can valorize for, and you can also reduce soil erosion in this way. 730 gigawatt hours, that's approximately the amount of biogas produced in Norway today. Norway has a plan to increase that very rapidly. The total potential of Indonesia is 124 terawatt hours. They have a target of 490 million cubic meters within 2025. Today, Indonesia produces 28 million. So that's equal to 4,900 gigawatt hours or 4.9 terawatt hours. So just to get some impression of the figures here. This is the table we made for every step. That shows all the details. You don't need to look at them now, but the point is that we have a gradual development where we are phasing in larger and larger biogas plants. So we start with the small micro plants, and then we phase up. And in every step, we increase the amount of larger plants. So, for example, in step 3, we have 4 large AD plants with 5,000 cubic meter tanks, and so on. And by 2041, we have realized all this potential, and we are up to 75% treatment of food waste, 90% treatment of sewage, only 9% treatment of manure, 80% treatment of shrimp sludge, and 87% of crop residues, and so on. So this is the calculation of all these figures I showed you. You can find all the details in the report.
Thank you, Kjetil, for a very comprehensive report. And if you have questions, you can write it in the chat or ask Kjetil directly afterwards. And now we'll hear from Jens Måge, Senior Advisor in Avfall Norge. And he'll talk about speeding up investments in Indonesia, the waste and recycling industry's perspectives.
Thank you, Oda. Thank you so much, and welcome everyone. My name is Jens Måge. I am advisor in Avfall Norge, and I'm part of the CLOC team, the Clean Oceans Through Clean Communities. Can I have the presentation? Is it coming up here. So the topic is speeding up investments in Indonesia. How do we do this? How do we realize this potential that Kjetil has mapped? And thank you, Kjetil, for a very comprehensive and a very impressive report. I hope that it will have a big reach in Indonesia, so you can be inspired. Runa presented about Avfall Norge, so I will not go into that again. But I will show you the map, because Kjetil showed you the map of Banjovangi, and maybe some of you that follows the webinar don't know so much about Norway or Scandinavia. So this is the map of Norway. You can see all the dots here. These are the treatment plants we have in the waste and recycling sector in Norway. And our neighbor country is Sweden, and we have Denmark, the little dot down here. And this is what we call Scandinavia. This is the Scandinavian peninsula. So actually, Norway is also a very stretched country like Indonesia. And we are an island country. We actually have more islands than Indonesia. Did you know that? It's actually a fact. I checked it. So we have some of the same challenges as you, but we have a better developed infrastructure when it comes to waste and the roads, etc. So if you want to dig more into the Norwegian waste and recycling sector, you will find a lot of information on the CLOC website, and get in touch with us if you don't find what you're looking for. Here are a couple of video. You can see it in Bahasa, explaining how the Norwegian sector is organized. I will not show them here now, but you can find them afterwards. So what are the benefits of a better biowaste management system? Quite obvious, I would say, but we need to remind ourselves about them. Improved life quality for everyone, protecting the environment, job creation, economic growth. This is what we are aiming for. And on the other hand, what is the consequences of a not functioning biowaste management systems? They are maybe not so obvious because it's sort of out of sight, out of mind. But at least there are these four. We have the methane emissions. We have leakage and toxins from these landfills. Often they are not sanitary landfills. In fact, most of them are not sanitary. Leaking into groundwaters. We have negative health effects. We have diseases spreading because of this. And at least also, not the least, we have the fires and the air pollution from the ever occurring fires on these landfills, and even open burning of waste, which is a big problem. But my focus now is on this one, on the methane. Did you know that 20 to 30% of methane emissions globally comes from landfills? And if we translate that into the total man-made global warming, we can see that these landfills and the mismanagement of waste accounts for probably 8 to 10% of the total of man-made climate emissions. It's huge. Actually, if you look in the shorter term, it's even more. It has even more global warming potential than many know of, because if you look in the shorter term, 20 to 30 years, the potential is 84, 86 times CO2. So we need solutions, and this is what we are working on in the CLOC project. You can find information. As I said, this is a very nice video, quite recent, from one of the regencies and the projects, which you can dig into. But there is a challenge. I call it the 0.22% challenge. You know what it is? This is a report that came some years ago where ISVA did a review on international development finance and compared the waste sector with all development finance in the world. And they came up with these numbers. You can see here, total development finance in the world at that time was $230 billion. And of this, only $510 million went to solid waste management. So that is 0.22%. I'm not sure if it has changed so much. But my question is, can we, by focusing more on climate change, trigger more finance? I looked into this, and I will, because we have the global, the Green Climate Fund. And the Secretary General of UN said this: climate change is running faster than we are. We need much more ambition and urgency. Finance is key. Developed nations need to meet their pledge to mobilize $100 billion a year for mitigation and adaptation in developing countries. The Green Climate Fund has a significant role to play. So what's the status? And what is this Green Climate Fund? It's the largest global fund, as we speak, to fight climate change. It has been in place since 2010. And the goal was to pledge $100 billion per year. As of today, we have reached almost that. It's actually 83, so it's a very big number. And the Climate Fund also do blended finance, crowd-in private investments. And they have actually a report on Indonesia. They call it the readiness proposal, and you can find it there in the website. So I digged into the numbers just to have a look. How does it look? Because you can search for the projects. There are 216 projects, and I'll just give you the numbers. This is the total financing, actually including co-financing, $45 billion. Indonesian projects, there are 3 out of 260. There are 12 where Indonesia is one of the countries involved. And what about waste? 2 projects out of these 216 when you search for waste, and $70 million. Not too bad, maybe, but problem is none of these 2 projects are actually solid waste management projects. They are within water supply and sewage. So my conclusion is, we have the toolbox. We have many reports showing how to do this. We have the technologies. This is a report that came some years ago. There are more of them, more reports. But do we have the will to fix the problems? We have done it before. This is from Oslo, our hometown here in Norway, our capital in Norway, 1975, when I was a kid. This is how it looked. Today, this is how it looks. It's a green field, it's a golf course, there's a composting plant, composting the green waste of Oslo. So in conclusion, we have the global sustainability goals. Get involved, let's solve this together. Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Jens. And now Fredrik Bjerke Abdelmagoid from the Norwegian Ministry of Foreign Affairs will, he will talk about the instruments available for Norwegian companies. Welcome.
All right. So, there's the camera. Okay. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Salam siang to those of you in Siang, to those of you who are listening in from Indonesia. Short introduction of myself. As mentioned, my name is Fredrik Bjerke Abdelmagid, and I represent Team Norway today, not only the MFA. as I'm employed by Innovation Norway, but seconded to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I was previously head of Innovation Norway in Indonesia and Norway's commercial counselor in Indonesia. Since my time is limited today, I will give you a short intro to Team Norway and the possibilities that are available, especially for Indonesia. As you all might be aware, the Norwegian government has started a drive to get the whole of Norway to work together to increase trade. Hele Norge eksporterer. The goal is to increase mainland exports by 50% by 2030. And in order to achieve this, we need to utilize Team Norway. For those of you not familiar with the concept of Team Norway, I'll introduce you to the most relevant players given today's theme. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs through the embassy in Jakarta. A good connection with the embassy is always encouraged. A business promotion is high on the agenda in the MFA. And the embassy is an invaluable tool as a door opener in Indonesia. The embassy has recently strengthened their staff on business promotion, and the embassy can utilize the residence of the ambassador for business promotion events like launches of new companies or event reports. A great opportunity that shouldn't be missed. I can also mention that the cooperation between the Nordic embassies in Jakarta are pretty good. They're all located in the same building, and also Business Finland is also in the same building. But you shouldn't rely on the embassy for financing. There might be minor grants available, but they are mostly allocated early in the year. Secondly, we have Innovation Norway, who is Norway's official trade promotion organization. Don't have an office in Indonesia currently, but Indonesia is covered from Innovation Norway in Singapore and the head office here in Oslo. And one important reminder is that export starts at home. You need to do your homework before going abroad. So Innovation Norway can help through growth strategy development plans, through workshops, and how to work on implementing your exports in practice, sparring and long-term follow-up, and financing for international growth. I'll come back to a little bit more of the different financing schemes, but I won't go into details. Innovation Norway also offers the Export Center, where you give export technical advice if you want to export goods and services, not so much services, but well, actually starting off as of next week, it's going to be services as well. It's a free service offered by Innovation Norway. So financing for international ventures, Innovation Norway can offer grants for innovation contracts. We have get access to EU funding. Norway is a full member of the Horizon Europe program, which allows Norwegian companies and researchers to participate in line with partners and competitors from other European countries. And you have innovation loans, growth loans, and guarantees that can help all of you. Your best bet is to fill out an online form on Innovation Norway's web pages and be contacted by an advisor. You get all the details. There's also a pilot for a single point of entry called En Vei Inn, where Innovation Norway, Eksfin, SIVA, and the Research Council have a joint application process. And more of Team Norway players will be joined after the pilot is finished. The caveat of having financing from Innovation Norway is that it requires value creation in Norway. The criteria has to be fulfilled. So just bear that in mind. Some other Team Norway players are Eksfin. They offer different forms of export financing and guarantees if you buy Norwegian. And Innovation Norway and Eksfin will co-host a webinar tomorrow on financing for exports and international expansions. And then you have, since we're talking about not just circular economy and waste, we have today covered also biogas is really relevant. Norwegian Energy Partners work with all the renewable energy companies. They have a country representative based out of, for Indonesia, based out of Perth, Australia. They offer market insights and advisory services as needed. And in Norway, you also have all the Norwegian innovation clusters and several of these cover renewable energy and circular economy. So you check out their web pages. In addition, locally in Indonesia, you'll have some relevant Norwegian and Nordic business communities. You'll have Norway Connect, which is based in Bali and Jakarta, Indonesia-Norway Business Council and Nordic Chamber of Commerce, both based in Jakarta. And furthermore, since Innovation Norway is not based in Jakarta or Indonesia anymore, Business Sweden is a valuable partner. They have a mandate to assist all Nordic companies and offers basically the same services as Innovation Norway, including market advisory, partner searches, events, cultural understanding, etc. And they're based really close to the embassy. And as mentioned earlier, you have Hele Norge Eksporterer, and as part of an increased export strategy, the National Export Advisory Council is working on identifying key Norwegian solutions for exports and strategy positioning. Currently, offshore wind and green shipping has been identified, and perhaps circular economy is the next one. You should work for that. In addition, Innovation Norway in Singapore has a regional high potential opportunity program on circular economy. It's based out of Singapore, but the long-term goal is to cover all of Southeast Asia. And other avenues to explore for financing and expansion is the multilateral development banks, like Asia Development Bank, ADB, and Asia Infrastructure and Investment Bank. Both have venture arms that work with private companies and startups. It's respectively ADB Ventures and AIIB VC program. It was launched this year in 2023, February of 2023. And last but not least, it's worth connecting with Norad and Norfund. They have lots of funds. I don't know the details. I'll let Norad and Norfund explain these themselves, or you should contact them. But there are several initiatives that might be relevant. Currently, you have the Just Energy Transition Partnership for Indonesia and the Climate Investment Fund, both managed by Norfund, and both have a strong interest in Indonesia. And the JETP's goal is to reduce, or not to reduce, but to improve the setting and framework for increased renewable energy. And Norad still have one of the programs for private enterprises available. It's called Enterprise Development for Jobs. Formerly, there was a lot of businesses that could apply for this, but this is mainly focused on, or only focused on renewable energy currently, as I'm aware. But biogas qualifies. So thanks for listening, and I hope this was helpful. It was short, and don't hesitate to contact me or any other Team Norway member in the future. Thank you.
Thank you for the good overview of the Norwegian tools available. And now we will hear from Jan Møller Hansen from the Danish Environmental Protection Agency, and he will talk about the instruments available for the Danish companies. And he will be joining us via Zoom, so welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Jan Møller Hansen, and I'm from the Danish Environmental Protection Agency. Denmark has a cooperation with Indonesia on what we call a strategic sector cooperation, and it's a cooperation that focuses on promoting green transition, circular economy, and waste management. We have been running the program for 4 years, and it's a collaboration with the Danish MFA, the Danish Trade Council, and our investment advisors. And we do work closely with the government in Indonesia, and of course also with private companies. It's both at national level, but also at local level with local authorities. Can you see the slides?
No.
Oda, could you show the slides?
Sure, 2 seconds.
I just want to say a few words and link up with what has been said previously. I think when it comes to circular economy and waste management in Indonesia, and we look at the investment opportunities and investors looking at the sector in Indonesia, I think it's very important that be aware of investors. They look for impact results, and today a lot has to do with climate improvements, etc. So the emission reductions are very important for many investors today, and it's a lot about achieving sustainability of investments. So I think that's a very important thing to keep in mind also for the next slide, please, for the Indonesian authorities. My message today is that it's not so much about technology as we might think. The technologies are there; they're being developed as we speak. There's a lot of technological options out there, and we also have a lot to offer from the Scandinavian countries. So a lot of technologies exist, and there are also technology catalogs being developed for Indonesia, which both provides description of technologies and also the economic analysis with the different technologies, the cost benefits analysis. We have done different studies in the last couple of years. We have looked at the budgets of local governments, the finance situation of local authorities. We have developed a catalog or a manual, a guideline for local authorities. It's both in English and Bahasa, where we go through different technology options and look into all the factors that needs to be in place for creating good investments. We have done different catalogs also together with the Danish Energy Agency. So the technologies are there. There's a lot of knowledge on what can be done. But as it was previously mentioned, we believe that some difficult decisions also have to be made when it comes to prioritizing waste management. A lot has to do with the will and the commitment to invest in these services. And from the Danish side, we look at we look a lot at what we call waste governance. A lot has to do with how we organize things, how we finance things, and what needs to be in place for achieving sustainability and good investments. That there is a saying that any good project proposal always finds financing. So there's a lot of financing out there, but the challenge is to find the good projects for the investors. Next slide, please. So how the projects are organized, the ownership, the leadership of the projects are very important. And for Indonesia, we always come back to the issue of financing. We see financing as maybe one of the biggest challenges in Indonesia right now for these investments. And here we look at tipping fees, and we look at retribution fees. We look at the fees that needs to be in place for operating the projects. It's not only about the capital investments, but a lot has to do also with the operating costs, the OPEX. And tipping fees are too low. The retribution fees are often not there, and if they are there, they are very, very low. Recently, last week here, I participated in an event in Jakarta where Canadian consultants presented also a new study on technology option and financing opportunities. And they also concluded that tipping fees, they are maybe 5-6 times too low for many investments in waste management. So our hope is that the local governments in Indonesia will start looking more carefully at the tipping fees and also the retribution fees. there is a new regulation from the Ministry of Home Affairs in Jakarta on new possibilities of increasing retribution fees, but it's not really known for many local authorities, and it has to be rolled out. We are looking into this and also want to support that, because it has to be financed from somewhere. And it is the households, it is the citizens, the producers, the industry that should pay for the waste services. And the polluters pay principle is something that always have to be promoted. Waste management is expensive. It does cost money. Electricity is not free, water is not free, and the same goes with waste management services. So this about financing of basic services is important, and it is important for private providers, because whatever kind of facility you construct, whether it's a material recovery facility, refuse-derived fuel plant, waste to energy, incineration, biogas, pyrolysis, biochar, maybe black soldier fly facilities, you have to look at the inputs and the outputs, and this about securing reliable and quality feedstock into these facilities is very important, and also the market offtake must be secured. It's fine to build a biogas plant, but if there's no reliable and quality feedstock, and maybe no offtake purchase agreement with PLN or some other offtakers, it will never fly. We have some examples, Danish investments in Indonesia that were not very successful. State-of-the-art gas recovery facilities with German technology, international consultants. It was built very nicely, but it collapsed because of the lack of purchase agreements and offtake. So these kind of things are very important to be aware of. We also have a biogas plant which didn't succeed due to lack of ownership and lack of offtake. So my point here is the factors around the projects and what needs to secure the sustainability is important. And never forget the costs for operation and maintenance and long-term costs. Often the OPEX is higher than the CAPEX after some years. So a life cycle assessment where you look at the institutional aspects, financial aspects, and also the social aspects. It could be if you need to require land, you need compensation schemes. There could be some public resistance to some of the projects. So public hearings and good collaboration and communication with the local communities are important also. So the planning and preparation and the homework that local authorities put into the projects are very important. So these are just some of the issues that I wanted to raise today. There's a lot of very relevant technologies available, and we do believe they're very relevant for Indonesia also. It's a very big economy, and there's a lot of things happening in Indonesia. But we need to look very carefully also at the framework conditions and these factors that I mentioned here. So this is my presentation for today. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the good overview. And now I would like to welcome Mattias Gustafsson. He will be joining us on Zoom. He's a senior expert in IVL, the Swedish Environmental Institute, and he will talk about the tools available from Sweden and for Swedish companies. So welcome.
Thank you very much. I trust you can hear me. Can you just make a thumbs up if you can hear me, and then I'll continue.
We can hear you.
Ah, perfect. So I'll show some slides also, yeah, I think it works. So first thing, thank you very much for having me here. I am Mattias Gustafsson. I work at the Swedish Environmental Research Institute in Sweden, from Gothenburg. I work together with my friends at Business Sweden Jakarta and the Energy Agency here in Sweden on different projects in Indonesia on waste management and on energy. And I think maybe the biggest sort of takeaway from my speech basically will be the contacts for my colleagues, Firman and Fuad, that will be in the end of the presentation. You will have the emails there, because already mentioned by Jan and Fredrik and others, a lot of the things that we experience from the Swedish side are also sort of already mentioned, and we have similar ways of working. I already heard about the International Financing Institute, which is, of course, something that is also from a Swedish side an interesting case. We have Swedish also financing mechanism, of course. So just as a very let me see if I so just as a background for myself is that we talked about Bunyawangi in the beginning. I've myself done a study for Probolinggo, so that's a city quite close to Bunyawangi, sorry, and we looked there on the waste management challenges. And I think also what Jan was mentioning about structural problems or challenges is really something that we find as something experienced creating good projects. For example, you know, just selling the electricity or selling the gas, etc., is not always a simple thing to do. So there are necessary to look into these things properly, because that's where the revenues will come in the end. So yes, there's a few points here on the Swedish initiative. So that would be Team Sweden on Swedish companies. And we have a business accelerator program that supports the SMEs in energy and waste. So a lot of the things here is basically we look at energy and waste many times as an integrated thing. Of course, there are other aspects like when it comes to circular economy, about other waste loops or loops of resources that sort of like recycling of plastics and other things. And we tend to look at these in an integrated manner, and often as sort of trying to figure out a full type of recycling systems. So not just looking at the waste to energy approach, but also seeing whether there is recyclable materials that can be handled as well. So we also have support to Alliance on Swedish solutions in renewable energy, where, you know, looking at specifically the Indonesian energy sector. And here we've tried to work with assessing renewable energy projects and projects with you know, waste to energy and others, and trying to support the first steps of creating these processes of getting projects in place. I think one of the things we work with and is really to find successful pilots and demonstrations. We had in 2010 there was a landfill gas project in Palu, and and this was a project where it was by SIDA, so it was slightly different from how we work today with more business oriented projects. But here it was like a a way of demonstrating the technology, and it sort of rendered a lot of attention and sort of trickle out effects that, yeah, landfill gas actually works. And then we have the Sweden-Indonesia Sustainable Partnership Conference. So this is like sharing of know-how, knowledge, experiences, etc. So just a few things here. We have had a long cooperation with Indonesian stakeholders. So this is like a list of activities that we've sort of had during the last maybe 10, 15 years, but it goes further than that. It includes, like what you heard from Denmark, a lot of studies, pilots and demonstration things, and also some experiences of where you really don't get to the final sort of successful projects. But again, there is definitely a lot of interest, and my own experience from working in both in Probolinggo and West Java on trying to figure out these and work together with the staff and officers in the cities. You know, it's really very stimulating and good, because they have a big, you know, interest in trying to figure out possible ways of solving these issues. It's not like you're not aware that there is need to go for further solutions on waste management, on circular economy, on recycling materials, reducing plastic waste, etc. So I will say thank you from there. And as I mentioned, please note that the contact details for Firman and Fuad is on this final slide. I think our colleague from Norway already mentioned that this Business Sweden office is actually in Jakarta, and they are very nice and knowledgeable people that will definitely be able to get some further guidance for you. So I say thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we will take a 5 minutes break before Satya Uktamalandi from INSVA joins us. And we'll have time for questions at the end. Okay. And now after a short break, we'll hear from Mohammed Satya Ukta Malandi, or Andik as we know him. He's the project manager in the Indonesia Solid Waste Association, and he's leading the CLOC project in Indonesia. And he'll talk a bit about Banyuwangi and also about the new waste master plan that the project has been working on with local authorities. So welcome, Andik.
Hello, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon for participants from Indonesia. Greetings from Pontianak, West Kalimantan. Today I would love to share what we've experienced with the developing master plan using participatory approach and what we've create for waste management in Banyuwangi. So I will share my screen. Yeah, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So in Indonesia, CLOCC have two regency working with. First one is in Banyuwangi, which we are working from April 2020, and Tabanan, which we are working from December 2021. So this is the approach of the CLCC itself, which the master plan are based on the concept of waste hierarchy in the left side, and the ISWM, or Integrated Sustainable Waste Management, in the right side. The aim for the integrated sustainable waste management is that we are not only when we are developing the the waste management system, we are not looking only from the physical aspect, but also the governance. And since the governance aspect is one of the most challenging part in the generally in Indonesia, therefore we are make a lot of effort and investment how to make the governance in the waste management become key success to sustaining waste management in Banyuwangi. And we are heavily involved with the decision with the stakeholders, local stakeholders, which they are the one that select the system based on their preference and needs. And we have three golden rules. First one is fixing what is broken, improving what is working, and adding what is missing. And then we are also using participatory process, which is not only invite the local stakeholders as the object of the planning process, but they are the main actor of the planning process itself. Therefore, for example, like Ibu Ervina, which also one of our early participant from beginning, which also helped for a study that going to present here, is our stakeholder, since she is coming from the local university. And then we are also using the up-to-date field data, which we are using WAC tools, waste-wise city tools, and waste flow diagram to identify and making the planning process based on real data. And from what we begin at 2021, the baseline is the 0 point where we are the process making further. The process itself, we call it a 7-step from the organizing the process until the monitoring plan. And at this moment, we are in the final stage, which is we already drafting and validate. We already drafting and for the master plan, also the action plan and monitoring plan, which we will have the public discussion to make the master plan as the final document, and also a formal document for the long-term planning process in waste management in Banyuwangi. This is the step which is description for each process, and this is the flow, how the CLCC working from beginning. So you can see here our first training to capacity building is at September, and now we are doing the validation process in the stakeholder meeting 4, which we will hold next week. Overall, in 2020, we do the sampling and survey, which we have this data. Total generation is about 852 tons per day, and just 78% is coming from the household, 22% are from non-household, and in between urban and rural area, waste generation is slightly different, which on average is 0.37. And this is the waste composition. The main part of the waste is organic. You can see here is mostly 60% are food waste, and adding with the garden waste and others, this is more than 65%. And this is the total generation projection from 2020 until 2040, which is in 2043, we are expecting that we will have around 1,350 ton per day waste. And at 2020, when we do waste city tool sampling and also do waste flow diagram, we producing this waste flow diagram, which you can see that only 22% are coming into the right place for the waste, which is coming 16% are coming to the landfill, and 6% are recycled by private value chain. And the 78% are unmanaged and mostly are done by burning and then dump in the field and throw into the river. This is the when we do sampling to the villages that around 48% people in villagers are burning their waste, and in between villages, out of 189 villages, only 54 villages that have waste management system, and most of them are not cover all area or all waste generation in Banyuwangi. And we also categorize from the all over villages into the level of the services for each villages. And as you can see, we are includes the villages into 5 level, which is from no services at all until we call it as the circular services, which have indicator for each level as described in the table. And you can see in most of the villages doesn't have a system. Some of them are basic, but and there is no village which has the circular services. And this is the waste flow diagram that we are agreed among stakeholders. And from here is from this waste flow, we are developing our master plan. As you can see here, the black arrow is the how the material or waste is flowing through the system, and then the green one is how the money is flowing, and then the blue one is how the information is flowing for each subsystem and each institution that we have at this moment. So you can see here most from the scenario that we are going to develop mostly are going to the, you can see the bold line here is this is what we are trying to develop. So we are going to have from the planning, we will have 60% waste are treated as close as possible to the to the what we call it to the nearest sources, and we will reach 100% coverage by 2031, which is around 2031, which is around 2036, which is 13 years from now. So by this system, we also create inclusive waste management system, which includes the private value chain as a main actor from the system. We also accommodate the household home waste management treatment, and but our core program is how we utilize the MRF, or we call it here as the TPS3R, to be treatment facility for the system. And at the end of the process, we will utilizing the RDF technology for from the residual and also from the mixed waste that is still collected from many places. So we are expecting that by utilizing and preparing such infrastructure, we will have a target that we are agreed upon from the beginning. This is the perhaps too small, but you will see how we are planning the master plan to 5 stages from 2023 until 2026, and then going for each 5 years. We are using 5 years term because development planning time in Indonesia mostly in 5 years term. Therefore, we will have 5 years development planning term for the developing the master plan. And for each area is we will develop in that phase or in that term. And for the first term, we are mainly do preparing for the system-based strengthen in the regency level, and do piloting in the 14 villages, which we have MOU with them to be assisted and developing the master plan in the village level. Those 14 villages mostly are villages that represent for each category or each characteristic of the village in Banyuwangi. Therefore, by assisting them to have a waste management system that can be running sustainable, it can be easy for other villages to be copy and follow the process how to develop village master planning in their own village, because we mostly saying that the master plan will be like a cooking book. for the roadmap to develop waste management system in all over places. But to see how the system is running and how the system will interact each other and include each for every stakeholders that willing to participate, we need pilot. We need something that will running when we still have time to approach. Because in Banyuwangi itself, if we do not manage waste in the village, then the leakage will be still happen. Because 83% of the waste generation are coming from the village area rather than the urban area. Therefore, village waste management system are the important aspect to stop leakage plastic waste to the environment or to the ocean. In the in the village itself, we divided into two categories of the treatment. First one is utilizing recycling value chain and RDF technology for the villages that already have the system, and the system are treated in the mixed fraction. And by adopting this system, we are planning to have as much as possible waste are treated and not depend and send the residues to the landfill so minimal. And then the second one is adopting for the village that doesn't have any system at all, or if the system are already there but not in the still under 20%, and we will use the separation at source system, which put the waste into three main fraction. First one is the organic waste, the second one is recyclables, and the third one is the residues. The organic waste, we are will be using the bioconversion, which can be used for the maggot or bell larvae. And the recyclables, we will incorporate it with the private recycling, private value chain to be recycled. And the residues will be sent to the RDF facility to treat it as the RDF. For the organic, why we choose to use bioconversion using black soldier larvae? Because at this moment, we have champion in Banyuwangi that already treated around 8 tons per day organic waste to be treated by BSF. And the product, they have fresh maggot, dried maggot, and also the organic fertilizer, liquid organic fertilizer. So therefore, we are expecting to have cooperation with them. But this is not. This is the organic treatment also will not be as the close option. We also open for any possibilities for treatment with another technology. So I think that will be all from my presentation. I will get back to Oda. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the interesting introduction and insights into the work in Indonesia and the launching of the Waste Master Plan. And lastly, we'll hear from Sigve Andero, who's the program director. And he'll be wrapping up and talking about the way forward.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, wrap up, I'll try. cannot wrap up all, but it's been great to listen to all the contributors. Thank you to everyone for coming, and not least thank you to Kjetil and Lindum for working on the report, and the team with Amalie, with Vladimir, and also contributions from the UNTAG University in Banyuwangi. It's been great. I think when we first, it's about 1 year ago now since I started to think that we should do something like this to get a roadmap of the organic waste. My motivation at the time was mainly that the CLOC project is, the main objective is to reduce plastic waste and ocean littering, plastic littering. And what we saw was that the organic waste is such a big cost driver in the system that it was really difficult to make any financially sustainable systems. So that was the background why we thought we need to look deeper into this and try to find better, more financial but viable ways to treat organic waste. When I see what came out of it with what you've found, what you present, it's super interesting. It goes far beyond what maybe I did think. I took some notes of some figures: 260,000 tons of CO2 abatement if we manage to get to that step 4. 13,000 tons of organic fertilizer. It's quite massive, actually. You said a little bit less than 1 terawatt hour of energy, 0.7 terawatt. 3,000 tons of protein feed, yeah, and lots of jobs, job creation. So the potential is really huge and interesting, and that's what we try to bring in here. Then is to get the different actors in who could actually try to realize those potentials, because we also know that even though we look at the numbers and it looks like a no-brainer, we also know it's really hard to get there. We've seen that from Norway, from everywhere. And we saw from presentations from Jan how those governance challenges, the financial part of it is challenging. So to actually realize those potentials, we need first and foremost, Banyuwangi Regency needs to or plays the crucial role, and that's really encouraging to see how much the Regency has engaged, how strong ownership there is, the development of the Waste Master Plan, the high targets and ambitions they are setting. It's really encouraging. So I think Banyuwangi is my understanding is that Banyuwangi is really forward-leaning to do something about this, and that's really encouraging. And that's why the rest of us can try to play our parts. We need to support the Regency with private-public partnerships, with private companies coming in with technology, with private capital. We need the blended finance to de-risk those private investments. And I think this is, from our point of view, this is what we're trying to do here, to kind of have a kickoff or a start of a process, bringing together those actors who could actually build and realize these potentials in partnerships, because I don't think not any one actor can realize this potential alone, but with the public sector, with the private sector, with international funding, with local entrepreneurs, it can be possible to reach these potentials, and it would be really great if we can. And from Avfall Norge and from the CLOC project, that's really my hope, that we can continue to play a role in this by facilitating, by bringing actors together, and that we can see these results coming through. So I think with that, once again, thank you so much again to Kjetil Lindum for helping us with the report, everyone for coming, to all the presenters. It's been great to listen to everyone. There's been different angles coming into and we see to complete the picture, and it's been really great. Some useful contacts from Frederick, Ministry of and Team Norway, from Team Sweden. So I'm looking forward to the continuation. This is going to be still going to be an exciting journey together with Banyuwangi and the Indonesian government as well, and the interventions from there. And thanks to the embassy as well for coming. That's really encouraging that you're always so supportive and coming when we are working on this. That's really encouraging for us as well. So with that, thank you. Did you want to open for any questions, or time is out? 1 minute? That needs to be a very good question. Maybe we just close. Is anyone on the chat with a burning question or?
Any question from anyone on the chat?
Yeah, they know where to find us. There are contact details, and as I said, this is just the start, or at least the one step on a journey. And this is where it's starting. So everyone with interest know where to reach us, and hopefully we will work together. And the webinar is recorded and will be shared afterwards, so it's possible to come back and look at presentations again and get the contact details. Thank you, everyone.